Welcome. These are the epilogues to the Promises of Pandora, the second Chronicle of Dolores. I'm going to be going through each of their epilogues. They all wrote it themselves. However, I'll be voicing majority of the narration and stuff like that. And this is basically the conclusion of the story of how things ended after our last session. So thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you enjoy the content. I will also be, after I go through their stories, I'm going to be going over certain NPCs that they had chosen to be talked about in this video as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening and watching, and you guys are amazing. I'll see you after the video.
To the people of the Divine Union, today I cut our ties with the goddess who once ruled us. Today I sever the relation she had with these people and the legacy she had sought after. For today is the day we will no longer be a monarchy, ruled and named after a tyrant goddess, but instead we will be ruled by a council of your peers. A council whose members shall be elected every 2 years. As for these first 2 years, I shall oversee it personally with the help of Asher Donson, Navina, Rona, and Varric Sparrow. If in 2 years you deem any of us unfit and wish someone else to take any of our places, then that is up to the people to decide, and anyone on the council will respect the wishes of our people, as we will swear to uphold and redeem the love, respect, and care of the people of this great land. This land that will henceforth and forever be known as the land of Seorsa. I hereby abolish the EOTG department and will personally oversee its redesign as a home for those who had suffered in the war, a retreat and respite from the chaos and conflict that had plagued your lives for centuries. From here on this day, December 8th, will forever be a day that this land sees a new path, one of redemption, one of hope and prosperity, and one of peace.
I am now going to go over the friends and family of Alice Solnir and what happened to them. Navina was able to reopen her bookstore. Through her work on the council, she was able to remove any bans on books that were previously illegal, later hosting events and open readings for anyone who wants to become a published author in the land of Seorsa. It was at one of these events that she had met Zorana, an author who was heavily inspired by the Promises of Pandora, a man she would later get into a committed relationship with, which was very loving and turned into an open marriage, able to have both their fun with whoever they please, as long as they always came home to one another. Zorana moved to a houseboat where they lived and had a powerful teleportation sigil marked so that Navina could return whenever she liked to her shop, where she could have her life in any way she pleased. Artorius and Eleanor. Being reunited after so long was a blessing, but it wasn't always easy. While Eleanor regained her memories of before, she was still a different woman now. And yet their love prevailed. They had another wedding and spent their days trying to catch up for all the time lost. They helped to rebuild Harpy's Nest to its former glory, even strengthening the magic so it may not risk falling again. Leo. While Leo lived in Harpy's Nest, he often visited Alice in the land of Seorsa. He was put in charge forever of the Sky Brigade, an honored and hailed hero among the Asimars in Harpy's Nest. Upon Alice's request to her father, Leo was granted something that had never been done before. He was granted a griffin egg, one that he was able to hatch despite not being a Solnir. He later had been given the opportunity to personally train an Asimar woman who was the daughter of Kveldner. During their training, they had fallen in love and later married. We now move into the overall epilogue of Alice Solnir's story. It took about a week after the end of the war on December 7th for Asher to propose while they were finally out on a real date at the library he had loved so much. But there was much work to do. Alice and Asher tirelessly spent every day working to rebuild the land of Seorsa. The Divine City was named the Priam City, and the castle was taken down, replaced with a town square and market to help the economy of the Divine Union, with a public park and school and some worship centers to help soldiers who wanted to retire to learn a craft and provide for their families and their new nation. This project took about half a year. The new year was spent rebuilding the Forgotten City, renaming it Dream City, and building homes, schools, and sanctuaries for anyone who had suffered, and even to those who just needed a fresh start. It was in Dream City where Asher and Alice themselves had settled, for it was the closest place they had ever had to calling a home, and where Davis's tree was planted, now in their backyard. It was there that they had buried Davis's sword and life stone. However, there was much more work to be done. Alice had cut the nation's ties with the Bloomin's crew, but kept the land of Seorsa's fleet working, hiring them to fish and protect the sea for the nation, providing more food and resources for the land, and encouraging more trade, opening the borders to any outside nation, allowing anyone to travel to and from the land of Seorsa freely. The Swamp of Memories was cleaned and reformed into a magic water processing area to help provide clean water to the people to support the growing numbers in times of peace. The academies were able to continue as they were, but no longer serving a goddess, but instead able to teach as they wish, with the desire to let the education be free to the people who wish to seek it. The work to rebuild the lands and the cities one lost took about 4 years after the war, and then when things finally began to settle, Alice and Asher married on October 10th, the year 1616, in one of the sanctuaries they built in Dream City, with Asher taking Alice's last name, a place to let people seek peace, comfort, and safety. Asher formed his own academy. He called it the Dawn Knight Academy, where he trained any who wished to learn to defend themselves. Alice had started personally funding her own restaurant that was open only on weekends but free to anyone, able to share her love and passion with food freely to any who wished to partake. This establishment was named Sunset's Offering and became a long-standing favorite hobby of Alice's. It wasn't until almost 10 years after the war when Alice and Asher were blessed with their first child, an Asamar son of red eyes, Asamar pointy ears, and short dark hair that they had named Davis Artorius Solnir, who was born on April 8th, the year 1622. This was the beginning of their real sign of peace. Alice and Asher had finally visited Harpy's Nest, introducing their son to her family and spending some time with the Harpies who had dedicated themselves to help saving the world. As a Solnir, her son was granted a griffin egg who hatched with their son to be raised together. They spent a year at Harpy's Nest together until Alice and Asher had to return to what they had considered to be their home, the land of Seorsa. This was where they stayed, occasionally visiting family, friends, and everyone in between, having many more children across many more years, all being a mix between vampire and Asamar, and all each having spent their first year of life in Harpy's Nest with a griffin of their own. Alice and Asher were finally granted everything they had hoped for: love, family, freedom, and purpose beyond survival. And for the first time and forever, Alice and Asher didn't just survive, they lived. On December 16th, 9 days after the defeat of Ovilius, Gwen and Shade were married within the Carven Empire, giving its wary people something they had been long denied: a reason to celebrate. It was only the beginning of their next chapter. Though husband and wife, duty once again led them down separate paths. Gwen remained to rebuild the Empire, while Shade devoted himself to the land once known as the Abyss. Under Gwen's guidance, the Carven Empire was reborn as the Commonwealth of Dolores, a nation founded upon unity after generations of hatred between humans and Genasi. Its emblem embodied that promise, two hands reaching toward one another across a shared light. From one rose a phoenix wreathed in violet flame, honoring the resilience, sacrifice, and rebirth of humanity. From the other flowed the four elements: air, water, earth, and fire, celebrating the power of the Genasi. Neither overshadowed the other. Joined by a single light, they became one crest, a reminder that the Commonwealth would measure its people not by bloodline or birth, but by their willingness to stand together. With scholars, leaders, and ordinary citizens alike, Gwen helped draft the Commonwealth's first constitution. It was imperfect, as all first attempts are, but its purposes was clear. Never again would power belong to conquerors or ancient families. Humans, genasi, and every soul who one day crossed Dolores' open borders would stand equal beneath its laws, each with a voice in shaping its future. The great scar that had once been called the Ovilius Abyss was entrusted to the Commonwealth's care. In time, even its name faded from memory. It simply became the Promised Land, for where countless lives had once been stolen, new life could finally take root. No one worked harder to fulfill that promise than Shade Umbran Wonder. Believing redemption could never be earned through words alone, he devoted himself to the people of the Promised Land. He raised roads and homes, charted its wilderness, and helped its people build a government of their own. Piece by piece, the prison that had once defined the land became a nation. Though responsibility often kept Gwen and Shade apart, they made one promise neither crown nor duty could break. Every December belonged only to them. Each year they set aside their titles to celebrate their love. They wandered the world together, filling that month of joy. 10 years passed. The Promised Land stood proudly as a sovereign nation, while the Commonwealth held its first great elections, proving the country Gwen had dreamed of no longer depended upon her. Satisfied that the future was in capable hands, Gwen and Shade quietly stepped away from public life. They built a modest cottage where four lands met: the snow-capped peaks of Westvon to the north, the Federation to the east, the flourishing Promised Land to the south, and the Commonwealth of Dolores stretching westward. Around their home blossomed an endless sea of wildflowers. There they found the life they had fought so long to earn. Soon after, they welcomed twins, a son named Tobin and a daughter named Penumbra, a promise fulfilled to the god of pain. 5 years later came their youngest daughter, Estelle. Their children inherited both their parents' gifts. Chaos stirred in their mother's blood. Shadow answered their father's call. And together, those powers became something entirely of their own. Gwen and Shade taught them not only how to wield such strength, but how to temper it with kindness, humility, and love. Blessed by the Phoenix, Gwen and Shade lived far beyond the span of ordinary mortals. For 5 centuries, they watched the Commonwealth prosper, saw the Promised Land flourish, and witnessed their family grow through generations. Most importantly, they watched Dornia become the peaceful continent that their own generation had scarcely dared to imagine. Then, one spring morning, they simply vanished. Only the legend remains now. It is said that Gwen and Shade offered themselves to the Phoenix, and that the 3 souls became one. Once an unstable force of terrible, untamed fury, the celestial bird was forever changed by the love they carried into it. Gwen's boundless hope and Shade's steadfast devotion became the heart that tempered its fire, ensuring its flames would forever burn to protect rather than destroy. Even now, travelers speak of a great phoenix soaring high above Dornia. Others tell stranger stories. They claim the phoenix sometimes walks among mortals. When it chooses a human face, it does not fashion one of its own. Instead, it borrows the gentle smile of Gwendolyn Wonder or the steadfast gaze of Shade Umbran. As years became stories and stories became legend, people remembered Gwendolyn Wonder for many things. Some remembered a promise who stood against Ovilius. Others remembered the woman who slew Emperor Orlo. Many remembered the founder of the Commonwealth of Dolores. But those who knew her best remembered something far simpler. A woman who believed every person deserved a place to belong. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lyra allowed herself to be happy. She married Jericho in a ceremony far grander than she would have ever planned for herself. Blue Rose walked her down the aisle, a gesture that brought tears to her eyes and reminded her that family was not always defined by blood. Surrounded by those she loved, Lyra chose not another quest or another battle, but a future. Together, she and Jericho built a life. Their first child, Cassian Kadros Cogspire, and he became the light of their world. He was raised in a home full of love, curiosity, and endless stories of heroes and impossible adventures. Lyra nurtured his sense of wonder, while Jericho taught him patience and ingenuity. And between them, they raised a boy who carried the best of both his parents. Years later, their family grew again with the arrival of twin boys, Stellan Cogspire and Leoric Cogspire. Like their older brother, both inherited pointed elf ears and their mother's striking ginger hair. Though identical in appearance, their personalities could not have been more different. Leoric was thoughtful and observant, forever dismantling gadgets simply to understand how they worked, while Stellan possessed a restless spirit and a smile that usually meant trouble was close behind. Finally came their youngest, a daughter named Celine Rose Cogspire. She lacked the pointed ears of her brothers, but inherited Lyra's fiery ginger hair and her father's unwavering determination. She was adored and perhaps a little spoiled by her older brothers, who treated her as if she had hung the stars herself. As the years passed, Lyra and Jericho devoted themselves to the Republic. Together, they transformed it into a nation that looked boldly toward the future without forgetting its people. Technological innovation flourished, becoming something accessible to all rather than a privilege for the few. Cities became safer, education more widespread, and opportunities more plentiful. The Republic earned a reputation not simply for its progress, but for its compassion, a place where ordinary people could dream of a better future and genuinely believe they could reach it. And then there was her mother. If she never awoke, Lyra visited often regardless, speaking softly at her bedside about her life, her husband, and the grandchildren she wished she could know. But if she did wake, it was not a fairy tale reunion. Years of absence and pain could not be repaired in a single moment. It was Jericho who gently encouraged Lyra to try, reminding her that some relationships deserved the chance to become something new. So she did. The visits began slowly. Awkwardly, conversations became tentative smiles. Tentative smiles became shared stories and quiet afternoons. Eventually, Lyra brought the children with her. Cassian's curiosity, the twins' endless chatter, and Celine's infectious warmth somehow bridged a distance that words alone never could. The relationship was never perfect, and Lyra no longer needed it to be. Little by little, they learned each other again, not as the mother and daughter they once were, but as the woman they had become. In the end, Lyra's greatest achievement was not surviving impossible odds or defeating great evils. It was this: a husband she loved beyond measure, 4 children who filled her home with laughter and chaos, a republic transformed into a safer and brighter future, and the quiet, patient mending of a bond she had once believed was lost forever. For all her life, Lyra had spent her time searching for where she belonged. In the end, she realized that she had built it with her own 2 hands. Naren Phantom makes her way back to the Federation, ready to claim the position she fought so hard to earn. She had killed the man she once called father, defying the life he had carefully shaped for her. Returning to the Federation should have brought her peace, but instead, something about it felt wrong. She walked side by side with the man she dearly loves, a man who has forgotten her. Even so, he remains by her side, still hers, in a way neither of them fully understand. Together they walk down the streets she once only watched from above. At last, she takes her place as leader, president of the Phantom Federation, standing as tall and as proud as she can. Upon her arrival, Naren begins planning her wedding. What should have been a simple ceremony becomes something far greater. She's preparing to marry the man she loves, a man who's slowly learning who she is all over again. Then comes a wedding gift from someone she desperately wants to hate, yet cannot. Deep within her, she feels that her father is helping in the only way he knows how. And so, on December 19th, the year 1612, Naren Phantom and Adrian Drakemere are married, marking the beginning of a new era for the Phantom Federation. A week after the wedding, Naren awakens, overcome by sickness. It is the first sign that a lifelong dream is finally coming true. Yet even with a child on the way, she has far too much work to do. She throws herself into rebuilding her homeland and freeing those who have long suffered under oppression. Her first major act as ruler is the liberation of the Project Z soldiers. Understanding their fear and horrors that they had endured under those who were meant to guide them, she grants them freedom and a chance to build new lives within the land once known as the Abyss. Alongside them, she releases the smartest man alive from the chains that once bound him. No longer a prisoner, he is finally free to go wherever he chooses and continue his work on his own terms. Even so, her mother awaited her return. 2 months after the war, the woman finally awoke from her coma. At her bedside stood Amari and Naren, ready to help her rediscover the world and reveal the truths hidden behind the lies of the man they had once called father. After all, her major projects began to slow. The Federation was finally calm, resting as much as a nation could after years of turmoil. The wounds of war had not completely healed, but they no longer bled. For the first time since taking office, Naren could focus on something beyond rebuilding a country. By that time, she was pregnant with her second child. Her first had been born on September 17th, the year 1613, halfway through her journey of reconstruction. Aspen grew quickly, becoming the very image of her father. She inherited Adrian's features almost perfectly, although her mother's eyes stared back at the world. From a young age, Aspen dreamed of one day leading the Federation after her mother stepped down. Yet for such a young girl, her ambitions stretched far beyond politics. Though she resembled her father, Aspen possessed a deep love for music. Every day since she was 6 years old, she could be found in the family living room, carefully practicing her harp. She chased perfection of every note she played, often losing herself in melodies for hours at a time. On rare occasions, she would invite a dear friend over simply to perform for them, while her mother spent the afternoon chatting nearby. The second child was born on June 21st, the year 1615, and there was no doubt that he was his father's son. He was a carbon copy of Adrian in nearly every aspect, from his appearance to his personality. Even at a young age, it was clear that he would live with all his heart, yet never hesitate to pursue what he wanted. His name was Brock, a tribute to someone they had lost during the war. Though the memories carried sadness, the name itself always brought smiles to those who remembered the man who had been born it before. As the years passed, Naren's family continued to grow. On October 16th, the year 1617, twin girls were born, Cassia and Dahlia. The sisters would eventually become the brightest lights in any room they entered. Their laughter filled the halls of their home, and wherever they went, others seemed drawn to their warmth. Though they were twins, they each carried their own spark. Cassia was bold and energetic, forever chasing adventure, while Dahlia possessed a gentler charm, one that could ease tensions and bring comfort without a single word. For the first time in her life, Naren was able to enjoy the peace she had fought so hard to create. The Federation was stable, its people were free. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined the nation. Years passed quickly. Aspen continued her music and dreams of leadership. Brock grew into a young boy whose heart and determination mirrored his father's. Cassia and Dahlia filled their home of joy. And as the decade came to a close, Naren looked forward to the future with hope rather than uncertainty. The Phantom family was not yet complete. In the years that followed, 3 more children would be born, further expanding the family she and Adrian had built together. But those stories belong to another chapter. For now, the woman who had once fought tyrants, rebuilt nations, and carried the weight of an entire people upon her shoulders could finally sit beside the man she loved and watch her children grow. The future of the Federation no longer rests solely in her hands. And for the first time since she was a young girl, that thought brought her peace. In the past 10 years, Lorelai's life changed in ways she never expected during the war. After the fighting ended, she and Calyx faced Rowan and made sure he finally answered for his crimes. When they returned to Fairy Tale, Lorelai met her mother, Omira, for the first time and began to build a relationship with her. Their return also brought a surprise. Rowan's death broke the magic that had trapped Lorelai's father, Zahal, so he was able to come back as well. The family, finally together, spent time reconnecting and talking about Fairy Tale's future. Lorelai and her parents decided the nation would be stronger if it included everyone. Instead of having a single monarch for each group, they helped change Fairy Tale's government into an elected council with the representatives from all different groups. Lorelai focused on helping people heal and tried to end the hatred many still felt towards humans, believing that working together would make the future better than staying divided. With her parents leading Fairy Tale through its change to council government, Lorelai was able to travel and explore the world of Calyx. They divided their time between Calyx's home in Westvaughn and a cottage he bought in Fairy Tale. The cottage, built near where the Time Ferrets had been moved to by the TSA, soon became one of Lorelai's favorite places to unwind. As they traveled, Lorelai and Calyx helped build stronger ties between the nations, often acting as informal ambassadors and solving problems wherever they went. Their relationship grew stronger during this time. On their first official date, Calyx proposed to Lorelai by recreating the magical mushroom forest where Calyx had wished her away on the day they met. Lorelai said yes right away. They married on May 10th, the year 1613, in a small, intimate ceremony attended only by their families, the Promises, and their closest friends. The next day, they held a huge reception where friends, allies, and acquaintances from all over the continent came to celebrate. About 10 months after the war, Lorelai's parents had a son named Amal Soloris. Amal soon became the pride of the family and looked up to his older sister. As he grew, he started showing natural-born leadership that could be used to become a government official in the future. After Lorelai and Calyx got married, they spent most of the next year traveling, exploring new places and enjoying the freedom they had worked so hard to win. Their adventures went on until Lorelai became pregnant with twins, and then they began getting ready for the next chapter of their lives. Their oldest children are twins, Zahal Graham Wilder and Isabel Omaria, born on March 10th, the year 1614. Zahal was named after both Lorelai's and Calyx's fathers. He has black hair, bright blue eyes, and almost always wears a big grin. Outgoing, playful, and full of energy, he loves sword fighting and making people laugh. He's naturally charming and confident, much like his father. Still, he looks up to his mother and often asks her to teach him magic, idolizing her and eagerly following in her footsteps. He has already started training as a cleric. His twin sister, Isabel Omaria, was named after both her grandmothers. Unlike her brother, Isabel is quiet and prefers reading to being in big groups. She has her mother's green eyes and black hair, and she's already shown a real talent for magic with Calyx's help. Even though she can be shy around others, her intelligence, focus, and dedication show she could become a powerful wizard one day. She is often happiest curled up with a book or studying, eagerly learning everything she can about the arcane arts. While she may not seek attention, Isabel possesses a quiet determination and wisdom beyond her years that often surprises those around her. Despite their many differences, she shares a close bond with her twin brother and is usually the first person he turns to when he needs advice or encouragement. Lorelai and Calyx's third child, Everett Flynn, was born on October 30th, the year 1616. Everett is full of energy, stubborn, and has so much magical talent that he sometimes can't control it. His wild magic often causes unexpected chaos, which can tire out his parents and siblings. He's shy with strangers, but once he feels at home, he's loud, curious, and very affectionate. His family loves him deeply and encourages him to use his unique gifts instead of being afraid of them. Even though his magic can be a challenge, he always brings excitement and joy wherever he goes. Their youngest child, Euphemia Violet, was born on June 27th, the year 1618. With her blonde hair and green eyes, Euphemia stands out from her siblings and has a personality to match. She loves nature and often brings home unusual animals she wants to keep as pets. Kind and always curious, she spends most of her time outside, caring for plants and making friends of all sorts of creatures. Her cheer-filled nature makes her the center of attention wherever she goes. She shares an especially close bond with Calyx, often seeking him out for comfort, guidance, and adventure. However, when it comes to her talents, she takes after Lorelei. Her deep love of nature and instinctive connection to the natural world would have already begun to reveal a gift for druidic magic, suggesting she may one day follow in her mother's footsteps. Now that their family feels complete, Lorelei and Calyx have decided to wait until their children are grown before thinking of having more. When that time comes, they will consider all their options, whether they have more children naturally or adopt orphans they meet on their travels. They agree that any child they welcome will be loved as their own, no matter their race, background, or situation. Despite the responsibilities of raising 4 children, Lorelei and Calyx have never lost their love of travel. Whenever possible, they take their family with them as they journey across the continent, introducing their children to new cultures, people, and experiences. They also make a point of visiting the other promises whenever their travels allow, valuing the friendships and bonds forged through the trials they endured together. Their children have grown up surrounded by stories, adventure, and an extended family that stretches far beyond blood. After everything they've been through, Lorelei and Calyx have built a life founded on acceptance, compassion, and the belief that everyone deserves a place where they belong. Linton lives inside the Republic of Cogspire. He's a caretaker of an orphanage and adored by many in the city. They call him the father of the unwanted. He never settled down to get married, but he has many girlfriends and children of his own. He loves and cares for them all. He's content just taking care of kids, whether their own or others, making sure they have a home, are cared for. And above all, he has 3 wives and a family of his own. He's very happy and living a life of peace. Conrad. Conrad lives inside Promise City. He is a blacksmith, always helping others with their gear and weapons. He founded a community program that supports rehabilitation for criminals. He remains single and happy to spend his time with instruments. In his free time, he likes to visit his son in prison. They talk about games, stories, and overall life. He is very happy to have his son in his life, and is happy anytime his best friend Alice visits. Sappho. Sappho lives inside Promise City. He is a personal trainer. He gets joy from helping people improve their bodies and get stronger. During his free time, he enjoys reading books. He prefers a simple life. He remains single and just focuses on enjoying the small things in life. Darian Starkland. Darian is acclaimed for his skills in combat and strategic achievements during the War of the Abyss. Not long after he returns home, he is granted the crown and becomes the new king of the Westvaughn Kingdom. He is a king and benevolent ruler. Many love him. He refuses to take on a queen, however, claiming that he is just fine being a king without a wife. Though secretly, he hopes that Gwendolyn Wonder will one day come to his kingdom to be his queen. Arius Starkland. Arius was upset that he didn't get to have Lyra after the War of the Abyss was over. He was known for being skilled in combat and quite charming. He had many offers from royalty for marriage, but ultimately agreed to marry a commoner. He claimed that it was because he loved her, although she looks suspiciously a lot like Lyra. Regardless, he has kids with her and they seem to be a happy family. Zorana. Zorana becomes the most famous romance novelist in all of Dornia. He published the series The Promises of Hotness, each book being focused on one of the 6 promises of Pandora. He made millions off his series and is widely acclaimed as the inventor of quality smut, as they call it. He lives on a boat near the coast of Dornia with his wife Navina and 3 of her girlfriends. He is chillin' and getting a tan. No kids, as he thinks having kids would be a drag, and he is content just writing more romance novels and enjoying his time out in the ocean with his super hot wife and her side pieces. Navina has a teleportation circle to go to her bookstore whenever she wants. Beyonder. Beyonder is a prisoner inside of the Promised City. He has grown rather bitter about losing his eye. He vows to get revenge on Gwen. He grows close with another prisoner, and he plots with her to get revenge on Gwen. The 2 of them fall in love as she accepts him. They end up getting released and enjoying their time together, making wax figures. They get married and enjoy their lives together. Beyonder secretly hopes Gwendolyn will visit him again one day, so that he can thank her for letting him live to get to this part of his life. He forgives her. Out of pain. The gods are fighting each other. The conflict never ends as they continue to argue with each other in battle. The god of pain ignores them, sitting on his throne, watching a mirror that shows the mortal realm. Nobody messes with him. He continues to watch Gwendolyn in shade. Tears run down his eyes, but he smiles. He is happy for them and their kids. He is powerless, but happy. Crescenda. Crescenda is recruited by the Phantom Federation to be one of their magical experts. She is fundamentally important in launching Operation Starsky. They filled the sky above Dornia with artificial stars for people to look at. She starts dating the smartest man alive. They enjoy each other's company. However, he suffered a heart attack because of the experiments done on him, and so she seals his body away to save him. She now just enjoys drinking her wine while sitting on the balcony of her apartment, gazing at the sky, proud of bringing stars for people to look at. Dorian Phantom. Dorian lurks inside of the Phantom Federation, keeping watch over Naren Phantom. Too scared to get close to her, but not enough to be in her life in some way. He wants to ensure that she's safe. He develops a neurological stimulant which allows Adrian to get his memories back. He administers it into Adrian's breakfast and doesn't say anything. He cries tears of joy when he sees Adrian and Naren walking down the aisle to get married. Morbin. Morbin is arrested by the police of the Phantom Federation. He stands trial and is found guilty for the murder and dismemberment of over 100 people. He snitches on everyone involved just to avoid the death penalty. He is sentenced to over 100 years in prison. Lavalsky. Lavalsky was arrested after Morbin snitched on him. He begged and cried for his life, but ultimately he was found guilty for the murder of his wife, whom he made look like a suicide. He was executed by the guillotine, swung down by Naren Phantom herself. Bartholomew. Bartholomew abolished his celestial side so that he could stay inside the mortal realm. The snake part of him gone, he was now only human and enjoyed his life with Rena inside the Wonder Empire. Bartholomew and Rena got married. Rena directed the entire wedding and he loved her for it. They both got everything they wanted. Rena wanted 8 kids, so they had 8 kids in a large house. They had dogs and cats, but Bartholomew's favorite pet was their black cobra snake. He enjoys being a gardener. Rena makes the money as a fashion designer. Cedric. Cedric is impressed by Jericho and Lyra's influence on the Republic of Kavar. He accepts that the Republic of Kavar doesn't need him, but he still wants to do good. He gathers a mass group of people that were kidnapped from their homes in Fairy Tale, and he helps them return to their homes. He travels with them there. They are so grateful that they invite him into a village. He lives the rest of his days there. They make him be a clan leader despite him being rude to everyone. They know that he's rude out of love. He marries a giant woman and settles down with her along with everyone else inside of his clan, living a happy life. The God of Fate. The God of Fate has created a safe place within the celestial realm, a space for all the gods that are not evil, that want to help the world. He sits and watches the Judicator through a mirror, worried of the day that he finds this world. Leonidas remains unconscious next to him, being cared for. He watches the mortals. He hopes that the Chronicles of Dolores find a way to defeat the Judicator, because he has run out of ideas. Ozymandias. Ozymandias is inside the celestial realm and is enjoying his time with his love, the goddess of mystical nature. The two of them find a private place where they can make up for over 1,000 years of not being together, just constantly having a good time over and over. However, they are unable to have children in the celestial realm, so they just continue to have their fun in a place that many would call their room of lust. Wenzel. Wenzel is the only god to decide to enter a deep slumber. She was watching Lorelei through a mirror and cried, realizing that she missed her as her daughter. To stop the pain of it, she entered a deep slumber, only to awaken if the celestial realm were to be opened again to the mortal realm. Zaire. Zaire lives inside the Promised Land, enjoying his life inside a village. He is known for making the best wooden carvings, often praised by his neighbors. He got married and has a family. He is happy and living his life to the fullest. Hello, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching all of it, and I appreciate you, being able to get the conclusion of all of our players' stories. They worked hard on it, and I appreciate that very much. They are all very talented, and they'll all go far wherever they go, in terms of acting or D&D or wherever. When it comes to my future, I am taking a break from D&D, or at least from long-term campaigns. I've enjoyed it so much. It's been such an honor for me, and I've really just been able to have fun the entire time, but I found myself to be getting a little overstressed. And I think it's a healthy move for my mental health to just take a break and just try to relax a little bit. I definitely will get back into it eventually, but I'm taking at least a couple months break, minimum. But honestly, it could be over a year. I have no idea. Although, all that being said, I do want to show how far we've come when it comes to the Chronicles of Dolores. We have the first chronicle, which was, as some of you may know, the Dreams of Dolores. That story had less of a happy ending. Everyone died, unfortunately, although it was definitely a crazy story and was the beginning of this entire long-term campaign. And then we moved on to the second chronicle, which you have just seen the epilogue for. The Promises of Pandora, a story that had a much more happy ending in which our players were able to triumph over the villains, and they got the happy ending they deserved, which is honestly a nice change of pace when it comes to a lot of D&D campaigns. It isn't always that happy, so I'm very happy to see it end that way. Now, when it comes to the future chronicle, the third Chronicle of Dolores, like I said, I am taking a break, but eventually I will probably do a third chronicle. It just depends on my mental health, of course, but just wanted to say again, thank you so much to both the people who watched our stories as well as the people who were involved in our stories. You are amazing. You are amazing people, and I appreciate you so much. When it comes to me, I'm just a single person, like in the grand scheme of things, I don't really matter that much. But when it comes to all of you coming together and putting your stories together and, putting your passion and your work and working together, that is something that goes beyond a single person. That is something that goes beyond anything that I personally could imagine. That to me is the culmination of just being something more. And I appreciate that so much. You guys are all amazing people. And I will always cherish the memories of running this second chronicle. Thank you so much.